Welcome to Veil of Shadows. Book 1, The Amulet of Shadows. By Marie Mayer. Chapter 7, The Radius Expands. The stone with return, carved into its underside, sat on Elara's kitchen table like a small, stubborn heart. It did not pulse. It did not hum. It was only a piece of river-worn slate, cool beneath the lamplight, its broken circle etching faint enough that she could almost convince herself it was nothing more than a careless scratch. But she could not forget the way the pressure had vanished the moment she lifted it from the soil, as if the earth itself had exhaled. Elara ran her thumb along the etched line, stopping at the break at the top. Rhys stood at the counter, sleeves rolled to his forearms, measuring salt into a bowl with quiet precision. His movements had the calm of practice, someone who understood that small mistakes compounded quickly in matters you did not fully understand. "You're wearing it like you've worn it forever," he said after a while. Elara's fingers rose instinctively to the amulet at her chest. It rested against her sternum, warm and steady beneath her shirt. Since the clearing, it had not flared again. It seemed content to exist, to listen. Sometimes, when she forgot it was there, she would catch herself moving more carefully, breathing a little slower, as if her body were unconsciously matching its rhythm. "I don't know what it wants," she admitted. Rhys's mouth tightened slightly. "That's the wrong question." Elara looked up. He set the bowl aside. "Your mother didn't hide it because it wanted something. She hid it because something else does." The words landed heavier than they should have, though she already knew he was right. She had thought it only in fragments until now, glimpses between fear and reasoning. But hearing it said aloud turned it from suspicion into shape. "My mother knew," she whispered. Rhys nodded once. She knew enough to prepare. Elara stared at the stone again. Return. A message placed beneath roots. A marker planted not for power, but for retrieval. "Someone expected it to be there when they came back," she said. "Yes." "Then it wasn't the only one," she murmured. Rhys's gaze sharpened. "What do you mean?" Elara pushed the chair back and stood, the decision rising fully formed before she could doubt it. "I can still feel where it was," she said. "Or rather, I can feel where the pressure isn't anymore." She swallowed. "And I can feel something else. Further out." Rhys didn't question her certainty. He only wiped his hands on a cloth and reached for his coat. "Show me," he said. They didn't go east this time. Elara led them past the manor's back field, along the thin line where green still held its ground against the memory of gray. The sky had cleared overnight, but the sunlight had an unsteady quality to it, as if it did not entirely trust where it was landing. Birdsong returned in fragments. One note here, a hesitant trill there, before cutting off again. The forest watched. Elara moved with the amulet's rhythm in mind, letting it anchor her senses. She did not reach outward aggressively. She did not push. She let her awareness widen like a slow breath, touching the boundary of her land and then beyond. The first few minutes brought only the soft presence of trees and soil and the faint echo of yesterday's disturbance, now settling. Then she felt it, not a pulse, not active, a thin point of tension, like a knot in a thread. West, toward the old road that skirted the river and climbed into the hills. Elara slowed. Rhys noticed immediately. "There." She nodded once. They followed the old road until the manor fell behind them and the village's outer fields came into view. The land here belonged to several families, parceled into neat rectangles of soil and fence. A few figures worked quietly, hands moving through cold earth, shoulders hunched against wind. As Elara and Rhys passed, the villagers straightened slightly and watched. Their eyes lingered on Elara longer than comfort allowed. Word traveled fast. She kept her gaze forward. At the far edge of the fields, where the road narrowed and the river bent sharply around a rise of stone, Elara stopped. The pressure was stronger here, still dormant, but closer. "There's something near the water," she said softly. Rhys's jaw tightened. "If it reaches the river..." She didn't finish the thought because they both knew what it meant. The river carried magic through the town, the way blood carried heat. If something learned to pull from it, it would not only wither plants, it would drain people, quietly, slowly, until even spells felt like empty gestures. They left the road and followed the riverbank upstream, stepping carefully between slick stones and frozen reeds. The water ran clear, but its sound seemed muted, as if the river were speaking under its breath. The amulet warmed faintly. Elara's skin prickled. "Here," she said. She stopped beside a stand of alder where the bank dipped low and the roots reached out like skeletal fingers. The soil was damp, dark with seepage. A patch of moss near the base of one tree had gone pale, washed of color, not fully dead but drained. Rhys crouched, inspecting the moss. "This is new," he murmured. "It's not frost. It's lack." Elara stepped closer, eyes scanning the roots. At first she saw nothing. Then a faint line caught the light at an odd angle. A circle, broken at the top, but this one was not carved into wood. It was scribed into the stone itself, a flat river rock half embedded in the bank, its surface worn smooth by water and time. The etching was delicate, almost respectful of the stone's age. It felt like someone had learned from the stump. No dramatic burn, no spectacle, just placement. Rhys leaned in. "It's a node," he said quietly. Elara swallowed. She knelt and hovered her hand over the rock without touching. Nothing pulsed, but the pressure in the air held steady, patient, waiting for completion. "Not active," she whispered, "but it's ready." Rhys's eyes flicked along the riverbank as if expecting someone to be watching from behind the reeds. "Whoever's doing this knows how you stopped the first one," he said. Or they guessed. They're being careful now. Elara's throat tightened. This wasn't a random resurgence. This was a mind adapting. But not a face. Not yet. Only the feeling of intention woven into placement, as if the forest itself had been taught a pattern long ago, and someone had begun tracing it again. She took a slow breath. "Can you see where it connects?" Rhys asked. Elara closed her eyes. She let the amulet's steadiness spread into her awareness, not as force, but as permission to feel. For a moment, there was only river sound and the faint chill of wind. Then, faintly, lines, not visible, but sensed. A tension running through the soil, threading between roots and stone like an underground web. The node beneath her hand was one point, and further out, another, and another, not close enough to touch, just distant enough to feel as possibility. Her breath caught. "It's not just here," she said. Rhys went very still. "How many?" "I don't know," she admitted. "But more than two." She opened her eyes, unsettled by the wideness of what she'd felt. "They're spaced, not randomly." "A pattern," he murmured. Elara nodded once. A containment ring, a fractured grid, a design that did not belong to a single person's ambition, but to a system that had once been built and then broken. And now, someone was picking up the pieces. She reached out and placed 2 fingers gently against the etched stone. The amulet warmed immediately, responding. Elara let the warmth move through her hand into the rock, not to burn the mark away, but to soften its edges the way water softened stone over years. The etching blurred slightly. The pressure in the air weakened. Rhys let out a small breath. "It's working," he whispered. Elara did not answer, because as the pressure faded from the rock, it did not vanish entirely. It shifted, like a hand withdrawing from one thread and tightening around another. Elara's spine stiffened. "What is it?" Rhys asked, reading her face. "It moved," she said softly. His eyes sharpened. "Moved where?" Elara stood slowly, gaze lifting toward the hills beyond the river bend. Further west, beyond the village fields, the land rose into older forest and scattered stone outcroppings. A place few people went unless they had reason. The pressure she sensed now was faint but distinct, as if the network, deprived of one point, had reached for another to compensate. "It's adapting," she whispered. Rhys's expression darkened. "Then it's not dormant." "No," Elara said, voice very quiet. "It's waking." The amulet rested warm against her sternum, steady as a hand pressed gently to her heart. Not made to rule, made to counter. But for the first time since she had uncovered it, she felt the faintest strain in its steadiness, like a current meeting resistance, as if the balance it offered would be tested again and again until something, somewhere, decided it could no longer be merely countered. Elara looked at the river flowing past, clear and indifferent, and then toward the hills where the pressure now gathered. "The radius is expanding," she said. Rhys nodded once, grim. "Then we follow it," he replied. And together, they turned away from the bank, moving toward the places where the old roots ran deeper and the pattern waited to be completed. Thank you for listening to Veil of Shadows. The story continues in the next chapter. Until then, may the balance hold.